Let's go to this time document. And it is the 5th session. And we are going to start with the questions that we're going to try to address. The questions of inquiry, the questions that we are trying to investigate. One, we have 7 questions. This time is about the covenant with Abraham, and Abraham is a very important covenant. I would say Abraham is the covenant that because of that covenant, God will make more covenants. If any covenant that has to do with us as Christians, it will be the Abrahamic or the covenant with Abraham. First, I want to start with the purpose of genealogy. We started with genealogy last time. We're going to continue this time. What's the purpose of genealogy in the Bible? Why do we have genealogy lines? Why do we have family trees? And we will say 2 important reasons for genealogies. One of them is obvious and the other is not very obvious. Next, how did God establish a covenant with Abraham? How did he do it? And remember last time we started by setting a map for covenant making. We said at least there's 3 or 4 items that have to be going one after another. And I said, remember how a marriage is done. You got 2, a boy and a girl getting to know each other at the age of marriage, and they go into a courtship, right? That's the first stage. You don't, in all times there were arranged marriages. Even an arranged marriage has to go through a certain pattern. You get always like a matchmaker that goes and talk to the girl or a best friend, and they say, we have a good groom for your girl, and then the next step would be to invite the family over, and they get to know each other. Or if they're going to do it together without the family, it's almost the same. In my mind, it's the same. We just want to like that. We think we are free. It's okay. You go study sociology, you know, there is nothing called free in marriage. You follow a certain pattern, even if you don't realize it. It's there. It's either arranged or not arranged. You might disagree with me, but it's the same. At the end, you will find that true. So they go certain sequence of events. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't get a girl and a boy and say, tomorrow we'll make a marriage. That doesn't happen. Not even in the movies. You wouldn't believe it. So there's certain sequence. In the covenant, God to call a people, and the people come after God, and they will receive commandments and receive promises from God. And if they are trusting God, I invite them for a cleansing process, a process of cleaning. And this process is, we're going to see it different from one covenant to another. What was the cleansing process in Noah? The flood, right? He had to go through the flood to get rid of the sin in the world. And then we're going to see what's the cleansing process in Abraham in this one. And then after that, you get into a sacrifice, and over the sacrifice, there is a covenantal oath. God swears an oath to keep his promises, and they would seal the covenant. As if you bring the couple to the church, and then in the church, in front of the altar, in front of the priest and the congregation, they will promise, they swear to each other that they will be faithful. And why do they have to do it in the church before God? Because sometimes people, when you are married, you will be alone. Nobody is going to watch over your shoulder to see if you are faithful to your husband or wife or not. Who would be doing that? Who is the only person who can see this relationship and the faithfulness in it? God. So God is involved, and this happens by an oath. When a person swears an oath. What does happen when a person swears an oath? Even in the court, you go, and in the old times you put your hand on the Bible. Today they don't do that. They just swear an oath. Say the truth, all the truth, nothing but the truth. So they used to do in the old times. So help me God. What does that mean? That if I don't do the truth, if I don't say the truth, if I don't say what nobody else had seen as a witness, and I'm lying, who should punish me? Nobody knows. Who should punish me? God. So I'm putting myself under a curse. To swear an oath is to say, as kids say, cross my heart, poke my eye, wish to die. Do you hear that? What does that mean? Like, I'm telling you the truth. If I'm not telling the truth, then let me be, what's the word? Cursed. Cursed means what? What to be accursed is what? Is to lose everything, including life. So that's what this means. When someone in a covenant swear, they say, no one is watching me over this covenant. I and God knows. And if I don't do it, let God be my witness and let him punish me. And that's putting somebody under a curse. Now, in the promises given to Abraham, God did something very special. No, he didn't do it in any other covenant. And this is why the covenant is very complex. So we have to kind of pause a little bit with Abraham. He gave him 3 promises. And I want you to pay attention to the 3 promises. He upgraded those promises into 3 covenants. It's one covenant, but has 3-fold covenants, almost like sub-covenants. So he gave him 3 promises, upgraded them to 3 covenants, and then he later on fulfilled the promises and the covenants again. So you have 3 things: promises, small covenants with Abraham, and then bigger covenants he made based on those promises. You understand? So there's like 3 steps. Promises goes into swearing an oath over a sacrifice to become covenants. That's what a covenant is. And then making even bigger covenants based on those. So Abraham covenant is very important. It's at the heart of our Bible study. The covenant with Abraham is at the heart of our Bible study. If you don't understand it, you will miss actually the rest of the Bible, even including the New Testament. You will not understand anything from it. So the next question is, what are the details of the covenant of circumcision? That's one covenant. What are the details of the covenant of blessing, which is the 3rd covenant? What are the details of God upgrading the promise of a nation to Abraham? That's the first one. And that's 5:3. And then 5:7, who is Melchizedek? We'll finish with that one about Melchizedek. That's a very important person that comes out of nowhere and goes into nowhere. It seems like it's a very important person. All right, so these events happen between chapters 12 and 22 of Genesis. And this is the genealogy of Noah. From Noah to Abraham. You have Noah, the 3 sons that we spoke about last time. Very quick review. Where did the descendants of Ham live? Which place they inhabited? Ham. The children of Ham. Africa. They were Africa. He was the father of all the black African people and the not so black, the Egyptians and the Libyans and the Moroccans, so North Africa. But also he had a child who was very fair and light colored. That's Canaan. That's the inhabitants of Northwest Asia, or not Northwest Asia, Northwest, the Arab Peninsula. That's Palestine, Lebanon, not Syria, Palestine and Lebanon mainly. Those areas is Canaan. Where did Shem live? Where did his descendants go? So the rest of the Arab Peninsula, like Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, then what? Then what also in Shem? Syria, Assyria, the Sumerians, the Akkadians, the Babylonians. All these are Shemites. And what else? In Indians, that's India. And where else? Asia, all the Asians. Okay, where did the Japhethites go? These are the fair-skinned, light-colored people of Europe. These are the Europeans. So very broad division of the nations. We call the table of nations from Genesis 10. Shem had a son whose name is Arphaxad. Arphaxad begot Shelah, Eber. And Eber is when people actually refer to him the name of the whole clan of Israel and other nations. They were the Eber's children. Peleg, Reo, Serug, Nahor, which is the grandfather of Abraham, then Terah, the father of Abraham. Abraham had another brother, and that brother is Haran. Haran begot a child, his name is Lot. So Lot is the nephew of Abraham. Abraham has a wife who may be a cousin, maybe. Her name is Sarah. But in their language, they call a cousin what? A sister or a sister. Or if it's a boy, they call him a brother. Because Abraham called Lot brother. But we know Lot is not his brother. He is actually his nephew. So this title, brother, sister, is not really specific to the son of your parents. It might be the son of your grandparents, might be the son of your brother, it might be your uncle, might be your real brother. So this title of brother or sister is a general title of somebody who's a blood kin, blood relation. So Lot was the nephew of Abraham, exactly, but Abraham called him my brother, okay? So when you talk about the brothers of Jesus in the New Testament, you understand where this is coming from, okay? Now, this question we had was, what did the genealogies that the family trees serve? Why the Bible is filled with them? This seems like a very new concept. I told you about that last couple of times ago. I said the Mormons, right, went and collected all the dead people data from Europe. They went into the churches and they spent a lot of money. And I got the baptism and the death records of many, many ancestors, European ancestors of American and non-Americans. And they were interested in this to keep records of dead people. They will baptize the dead. They were baptizing the dead. They have a certain ceremony to do that into Mormonism. Imagine you see your grandfather or grandmother name in the Mormon church. They actually are remembering him in their own liturgical worship. It's crazy. But they did this, and thanks to them, people from in the States now, many people from European descent can trace their ancestors to generations upon generations in the past. They make their family trees. But this is a new concept. Before that, nobody did care to do that. Now we have also added to this the DNA studies, and we can trace your ancestry to an ethnic group. People can tell you today, I have 1/8 Indian American, 1/8 Jew, 1/8 Arab, 1/8 Polish or German, and they can tell you that from their DNA studies, but they can tell you exactly who it is. The genealogy charts will tell you that. But this was something in the Bible very long ago. Why would the Bible keep genealogy charts? The first thing the scholars said, that the Bible was divided into sections. Each section begins with a genealogy chart. They served as, so in the old times, books were not divided the same way we divide books today with titles, index, pages. Never. They didn't even have page numbers. So how would you divide the written stuff? They said, we used genealogy charts. Chapter 2 in Genesis begins with, these are the generations of the heaven and earth. Chapter 4 and 5 says, these are the genealogies of Adam and Eve. Chapter 5 starts with, or 4 starts with, ends with the genealogy of Cain. Chapter 5 starts with the genealogy of Adam and Eve. You come to chapter 12 or 11, you get the genealogy of Noah. So each section, actually chapter 6 to 9, the genealogy of Noah. So you got 11 sections in the Bible. I listed them here. This is reference. I want you to know this is actually from something called Nelson Map, Complete Map, or Complete Book of Maps and Charts. If you look at that book, you will find this is how they describe the reason for genealogy. So the first one. First one is to divide the Bible into sections. Every section will begin with a genealogy as a title, if you can imagine that. But also for the purpose of our study, genealogy serve as what? We said that before. As a link between covenants. Since it is one family that we're actually following, God's going to keep making covenants with this family. And then here comes a question that's very important. If we already had made a covenant with humanity in the creation of Adam and Eve, right? And we said there were two links in that covenant. It's twofold. One fold is adoption, and the second fold is Marriage. These two were the beginning. And then we said humans fallen, and they started to renew their covenant. And we saw exactly similar narrative in the covenant with Noah. So God renewed that covenant in Noah. So why do we need another covenant with Abraham? What's new? Isn't that a very obvious question? Like, well, God's going to keep doing the covenants over every time. Does that make sense? Like, okay, let's say this. You get married to somebody and they betray you. So you forgive them and say, let's go to church and make remarriage. You go to make remarriage. And then they betray you again. You go to church and do remarriage. Does that make sense to anybody? No. So why would God do this? Why would God keep making new covenants? So we've done covenant with Adam. Now we renewed it. We perfectly renewed the same thing. And the language and the details of the story is the same. Why would God do a covenant with Abraham? He already is his son. He is part of humanity. He's a great son. Actually, he's the best of sons. But why would he do a covenant again? What is the need? That's what we need to try to answer today. And I wish that you can get it as we are moving on. Why would God make a covenant with Abraham if it's already renewed through Noah? And he made a promise that he's not going to annihilate humans again.